Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we try to go beyond the headlines, really get into the weeds of complex stories. And today, we're heading down to Boca Raton, Florida. There's a situation unfolding there that's, well, it's fascinating, but also, frankly, a bit unsettling. We're looking at a really high-profile urban development project, a major rethink of the city's downtown and the background of one of the main developers involved, the background that wasn't initially shared. Yeah, we're pulling our information today mainly from an article in the Boca Raton Tribune. And they did a good job referencing a pretty significant Miami Herald investigation, too. So it gives us a solid, layered view. Our goal here really is to help you quickly get your head around the different parts of this story. See how local decisions connect to, well, bigger issues like accountability and a tragedy that many people remember vividly, and hopefully understand why this matters, not just for Boca, but maybe for your community, too. So let's set the scene. Downtown Boca Raton. The idea is to take the current City Hall campus, the municipal center, and completely transform it. We're talking a big mixed-use development, not just offices, but homes, shops, restaurants, public spaces, all integrated. It's a proposed partnership. On one side, you have the Miami-based Terra Group, and on the other, the Palm Beach-based Frisbee Group. And the pitch, the vision they're selling, is this idea of a new gateway for downtown, something that boosts the economy, brings people in, creates a modern civic hub. On paper, it sounds pretty ambitious, potentially transformative.
It does sound ambitious. And what's really striking, as you said, is the location. This isn't just any piece of land. It's the City Hall campus. That's central civic real estate. It carries a different kind of weight, a public trust element. And you have to remember the context, too. The source material mentions that there's huge demand for luxury property in Boca Raton right now. That creates enormous pressure, a real economic engine pushing these big projects forward. But, whenever you have these large-scale urban redevelopments, there's always that inherent tension, isn't there?
Absolutely.
It's that push and pull between growth, revitalization, maybe more tax revenue, and the community's concerns. Things like traffic, infrastructure, keeping the character of the place intact. So this project was already significant, already likely to spark debate, even before this other layer emerged.
Right, that tension is almost standard for these things. But then, like you said, this other layer emerges. And this is where the story takes a pretty sharp turn. It gets really interesting here. So Terra Group, the Miami developer in this partnership, they submitted their proposal to the city of Boca Raton back in January 2025. And here's the kicker. They didn't disclose a really significant part of their recent legal history in that proposal, that omission. That's the core issue that's come to light.
And that non-disclosure, it immediately flags concerns about transparency, doesn't it? About trust. Especially in these big public-private deals, it makes you wonder about the vetting process. Are cities equipped or maybe incentivized to look past the glossy brochures?
Good question.
Especially when dealing with complex corporate structures. If crucial information like major litigation isn't upfront, it really undermines the whole basis of the partnership. You start asking, well, what else wasn't mentioned?
Exactly. It changes the whole dynamic. And let's be clear. When we talk about Terra Group's legal history here, this isn't a minor issue. We're talking about their connection to the truly devastating 2021 Champlain Towers South condo collapse in Surfside, an event that tragically killed 98 people. Terra Group was named as a key defendant in the lawsuits that followed, specifically a consolidated class action suit filed in November 2021 named Terra Group, Terra World Investments, and 8701 Commons Development. All these entities were linked to Terra's 87 Park project. And this is crucial. That project was built literally right next door to Champlain Towers South in Miami Beach. The physical closeness was central to the legal case.
Right. And this gets to a really fundamental question in construction, doesn't it? How much can intense work on one site affect its immediate neighbors, especially older buildings? The core allegation in the lawsuit was exactly that the heavy-duty excavation and the pile driving for 87 Park, really intensive work, allegedly weakened the structure of Champlain Towers South next door. The argument was that this work was a contributing factor to the collapse.
A direct link was alleged.
Yes. And the Miami Herald did a deep dive on this back in March 2022. They quoted the plaintiff's attorneys, Harley Tropin and Rachel First. They were pretty blunt. They said they believed additional entities share responsibility and specifically alleged that the 87 Park developers ignored clear warning signs.
Warning signs?
That their work posed a danger to Champlain South and failed to follow industry standards. That was their claim. Now, it's really, really important to state this clearly. The defendants, including the Terra-linked entities, consistently denied these claims. They denied liability throughout the whole process.
That denial is definitely part of the official record.
Yeah.
But even with that denial, the legal process itself was, well, massive. The whole thing wrapped up in mid-2022 with a settlement figure that was just staggering nearly $1 billion. Our source, the Boca Raton Tribune, citing other reports, called it one of the largest of its kind.
Just huge.
And digging to the court records, it shows that Terra-affiliated entities contributed a very significant chunk of that, around $400 million, towards the settlement agreement.
And this is where the nuance comes in, which often gets lost. That nearly billion-dollar settlement, it was reached without any admission of liability by any of the defendants.
Right. The classic legal distinction.
Exactly. Legally, settling a case, even for a massive amount, isn't the same as a court finding you at fault. Companies often settle to avoid years of litigation, the huge costs, the uncertainty, the reputational damage, regardless of whether they believe they did anything wrong. But for the public looking in, it's complicated. You see a $400 million contribution tied to one of the worst building failures in U.S. history.
But no official finding of fault.
Precisely. And that leaves this sort of lingering question mark, especially when that same developer then proposes major new public projects. It highlights that gap between a legal resolution and perhaps community expectations around accountability. And we can't forget, the Surfside collapse itself remains this incredibly potent symbol, one of the deadliest building failures in U.S. history. Its shadow is long.
It really is. So bringing it back to today, what does all this mean for the folks in Boca Raton? And maybe more broadly, for other towns watching this? Because it's clear, since settling that Surfside case, Terra Group hasn't slowed down. They're pushing forward with big projects, like this proposed City Hall redevelopment with Frisbee Group in Boca.
Well, connecting the dots, the Surfside tragedy fundamentally changed things in Florida, and really across the country. It forced a hard look at condo safety regulations, building inspections, construction oversight, and the responsibilities of everyone involved. Developers, engineers, associations. New laws were passed. Scrutiny intensified.
Things definitely tightened up.
They had to.
Yeah.
So having Terra Group now involved in redeveloping Boca's downtown core, given this specific history, it inevitably adds a layer of scrutiny, as the Tribune article puts it. It just does. And you have to remember, there were already concerns being voiced by critics about the Boca project itself, even before the Surfside connection became widely discussed in this context.
Right, the usual development concerns.
Exactly. Worries about the sheer scale of it, potential traffic nightmares, maybe overshadowing adjacent areas, the strain on local services, standard stuff for big urban projects. But now, you layer on top of those existing concerns the involvement of a developer linked, even through a settled lawsuit without admitted liability, to Surfside. It just amplifies everything. So this specific project really underscores the high stakes of development. It's not just about shiny new buildings or economic metrics. It's about trust, safety, transparency, and there's fundamental questions about accountability in how our cities grow and change. They loom very large here.
Wow. Yeah, it's certainly been a dense discussion, but really crucial, I think. It shines a light on how these things connect. Past events, current plans, future impacts.
Yeah.
Expert, thank you. Your insights have been incredibly helpful in navigating this pretty complex and sensitive territory and bringing out those bigger systemic issues.
Glad to contribute. It's an important case study.
Absolutely. And for you listening, as you think about development in your own community, here's something to chew on. What role should a developer's past legal history play? Even if a case ended like this one, settled without admitting fault. And maybe more fundamentally, how can communities like Boca Raton and yours make sure there's real, comprehensive transparency? Not just relying on developers to self-disclose, but having robust vetting processes in place to ensure everyone involved is truly accountable for shaping the future of our towns and cities. Keep asking those questions, keep digging. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.